Hey, and welcome to FluentPro webinar. Today we'll talk about the budgeting in Microsoft Project Online and creating budgets, managing budget, and tracking budgets. Very quickly about our company. We are FluentPro Software, and our company is ISV and Microsoft Gold Partner, focusing on the Microsoft PPM. We develop solutions for Microsoft Project Server, Microsoft Project Online, Microsoft Office 365 Planner, and Dynamics 365. We focus entirely on the PPM ecosystem, and we developed several products for this platform for migration, configuration management, as well as add-ons for reporting, auditing, and financial tracking, financial management. My name is Anton. I'm the president of the company, and I will do this presentation today. So when companies implement Microsoft PPM, and in most cases, they follow one of the standards in industry. There are, in fact, two kind of like major standards. First one is Organizational Project Management Maturity Model, shortly called the OPM3. And there is one for developed by organization called Axelis, and formerly it was initiated and started by British government. It's called the P3M3. It's all around the project management, program management, and portfolio management maturity models. And both of those standards and guidelines, they stress and they have financial management for projects, programs, and portfolio as one of the key elements of the strategy and their guidelines. So saying that if you implement PPM, if you implement the PPM practice and organization, financial management, it's a key component and it needs to be managed. It needs to be part of the entire approach for implementing and improving the PPM or program and portfolio and project management organization. So why it's important? As we know, for every project, we have resources, we have time, and since we have resources, every resource, there is a cost associated with resource. And in fact, Microsoft Project itself, it tracks quite good on the cost side. But again, organization also need to understand, and when the project are starting and organization are planning for projects, they need to understand what would be the high level cost. Microsoft Project as project management tool, it answers very greatly. As I mentioned, it answers the question about the cost. You can have very detailed cost structure and track that information, but at the same time, it's not providing the high level picture. So it's important to have that, to have the budgets. It's important for management. It's important for PMO because it leads to higher efficiency, visibility, and increased control. We understand what is our budget for this year or for a specific period of time of the project that we will be working on. It's better way to plan activities and allocate budgets and better execute against those budgets and better execute the projects. If we track our budgets versus the planned and we have the budgetary constraints, we definitely can make decision regarding the project execution or killing some of the projects much faster if we have that information on hand. Right now, if we talk about the core functionality of what we have in our solution is, it's pretty simple. We're saying that please use our software, and that's exactly where it's great, is that you can create a high level project and portfolio budgets. And majority of organizations right now, they use Excel to do that stuff. The problem with Excel is that it's still a file-based system. It's a great tool. You have unlimited grid where you can do a lot of calculations and beautification of it, but still it's a file. You need to do additional processing. If you need to include that information in any of the reporting, you need to spend a lot of time doing that, and you're depending on files. It's a past. modern organization cannot do that. As core functionality, we support forecast, we support baselines, we support actuals tracking. You can switch between monthly, quarterly, and annual data views, so you can see that information for projects of pretty much any duration. Right now, we support single currency, and we can look periods for data entry, so that employees cannot change the past data. That for example, okay, it's end of October. I can look all the financial information, let's say on the 5th of November, and no one can change any budget information or forecast for October, September, and all the previous months. It's all based on the categories, financial categories, so you can categorize your costs and track. It can be labor, hardware, uh, payments to vendors, payments, for example, for some general costs or travel expenses. So you can track all that information. Uh, our application is natively integrated with Project Online, so you can place it on the PDP and we'll demonstrate how that works. As well as we can push totals to custom fields in Project Online, so those can be used in addition on some high-level PDPs or in the reporting. Uh, what is very important is we support standard in industry. We support our data feed for Power BI reporting, and we provide the Power BI reports pack with our application. If you compare it to out-of-the-box functionality, as I mentioned, the project online is a great tool, and Microsoft Project is a great tool, but it's mostly focused on the cost management. You have a schedule, you have resource assigned, you have rates and costs associated with your resources. You get the cost, and you can track that. Uh, versus our application, the FluentPro Financial, it's more a budgeting tool. It allows you to create a budget and then track the budget versus the cost and versus the cost that you have as actual in Microsoft Project. From reporting standpoint, we have several reports that uh, allow you to organize your information and compare the information pretty much in any format. You can have a type of project called the portfolio, and you can have budget assigned to that portfolio, and then you can have projects, and you can have budget assigned to each of those projects. It means what you can do is you can compare the budgets that you have for your portfolios against the budgets for individual projects and compare the totals by category or in time phase forward. Same time, you can have your portfolios organized on the, let's say that every year you start a new portfolio and include projects in that portfolio. It's also possible. So you have full flexibility here. We work with standard terms of Microsoft Project Online called projects and enterprise project types, and we can link to those entities. Uh, Versus what you can compare is, as I mentioned, by grouping and touching the budgets to portfolio projects, you can have that analysis and comparison features where you can compare budget versus budget. You can compare budget versus budgets from projects that part of that budget. So you can do a lot of those comparison for analysis and for making some decisions and to identify differences in execution or in planning. So very quickly, if we go to the demo, and let me go there. So it's my pretty standard Microsoft Project Online. We have our list of projects. If I click on one of the projects, for example, I click on the IT 2018 Partner Help Desk. Along all my standard PDPs, I have a PDP called the Project Financials. And what we have here is we have embedded web part on that PDP that shows your high-level budget. So I have my cost structure, so that's my categories, that's my resources, that's external resources, that's implementation, vendor payments, services, software, hardware. You can create additional categories here. You can have them as a standard functionality, or you can use them. You can define pretty much any depths of hierarchies here. As well, you can create the sub levels for your budget. You can view information on, as I mentioned, on the quarterly, yearly, or monthly basis. So in this case, system will change your grid and will show the allocation. So you can track that information and plan on any level of granularity. You can control what kind of information you'd like to see that. So you can start simply with forecast. And by the way, you can rename those columns if in the organization you don't use the term forecast, you can use a planned cost or plan. Uh, but at the same time, we can track the baseline and actual. Uh, you can copy information between the forecast and baseline if you edit the project, so you can copy that information. Let's say that it's a standard planning process. You created a budget, it's approved. You copy your initial forecast to baseline. That becomes your baseline. And along the course of the project, if you need to make change to your budget, for example, there are some additional costs, there are additional resources that you need to the scope of project change. You can make change, but still you can compare that versus the baseline that was approved and the budget was allocated to the project. As well, it supports the heat maps. Uh, it's also configurables where you can define the rules and coloring, and I will show that in settings, where you can compare forecast versus baseline, actuals versus forecast, and actual versus baseline. So it will highlight if there are variances in costs. So you can visually see that visually see that on the grid. Uh, those dates you can control if your project multi-year project. You can control which month is displayed here, but by default it will get the project start date and project finish, and you will be able to see the grid for entire period. So that's a component that everyone in organization will see if you allow that. We support the security model as well, so you can protect what kind of information users can see and what kind of information users can edit. So we limit that visibility into finance. And let's go to the application itself. So our application, it's a standard Office to SharePoint application, which is a standard for Microsoft Project Online apps. It's available on the App Source right now. There's no longer Office Store, and you can install from there. So if we go to site contents, our application will be installed here as just as regular app. We have it here, FluentPro Financials, and it's here. So in my FluentPro Financial application, you can use the application itself. If you don't want, for example, to embed the budget grids into PDPs, it's totally fine. You can use application, edit the budget just here in application. Here I have a list of all my projects from Microsoft Project Online, and I see for which one I have created budget. So if I go to one of the project again, I have pretty much the same functionality. I have my grid, I have my cost structure, and again I can play with all that information and see details if it's needed. So for example, in this case, in heat map, I can see information. Okay, I see that the forecast was that amount, and that's a baseline. So definitely there is overrun. We have a new plan amount, and it's higher than it was approved. And again, like you can do all the different comparisons here for using the heat map feature. If you go to settings in application, we have several settings what you control. First of all, you can, as I mentioned, you can rename your category. If you don't using forecast, use plan. If it's not baseline, maybe it's approved cost or approved budget. So you have all the flexibility to rename, as well as you can rename the columns. If it's, for example, no type, you can have that. For example, if a name which is named for the category, maybe it can be something different. You can customize UI to meet your enterprise standards as well. By default, we support we support the cost categories template, where you can define you can define your default categories that will be created, that will be added to every project. When new budget is created, categories will be pre-populated with defined structure here, and we support two levels of categories. So you can create subcategory, and you can create the outline. For example, you can say that instead of having resources, uh, cap labor and resource external, you can have one section called resources, and under that the two sub items labor. So we support the hierarchy on your categories, and you can control if users must use just the default category, or they can allow add categories on the project level. We are not limiting users just to use the defined template. Users can delete them, users can add additional categories, and as admins, you can enforce those rules. For project details, as I mentioned, we have integration with fields. It means that we can push information from financials to project level fields, and that's exactly where it defines that mapping. We use the term in and out. Out is when financials update the project level fields, and as well, we have one field where if you have one just a number approved, you can bring that into the financials and use for the comparison. For every category, you can have GL codes, and you can create a dictionary of GL codes. And for on the grid, you have a column for GL codes, so the users can use that GL codes for quick re-entry and quick entry of codes using the dictionary, or you can allow them to use a free type, so they can enter any type of GL code. Log data, as mentioned, you can log for specific months and year. So we do the monthly level log. For example, I can say log everything until the September 2018, and that will create a constraint that users cannot change anything earlier and pretty much October, so it will log the September and all months before. For heat maps, that's a place where you can configure your rules. So that's a variance level, and you can control color for background color for phone. You can change, for example, note that intensely red. You can use slightly different color. It's up to you. You can reconfigure that. By default, we have several roles and applications. So we have instance admin. Admin can do pretty much everything. For project managers, you can decide which project managers can create, edit, and delete budgets for projects where that they manage, and the viewers can only see that information. And you can control it's all based on SharePoint groups, so you have full control on how to add people depending on the group membership. It's used and it's controlled in the financials. Let's go back to our application. Again, here I can edit it in the application, or if I click on the navigate, that will open my project, and it will open my schedule in PWA. And again, I can click on the financial, just get to the same grid. As you can see, the grid itself, it's quite simple. You can control and enter all that information. And ideas that you have forecast that you after approval you create a baseline, and after that you start executing your projects. Definitely life is change. Project have a tendency to change, so you'll probably update the forecast and you will update the actual costs for a project. This working on that, working on managing the budgets and tracking all that information. The next question that everyone will ask: okay, I have that information, have the budget. What's next? How I can embed that into my reporting, into existing reporting, and how I can see all that information. For that, we developed the set of Power BI reports. We have 9 reports available for users, and we provide it as part of our package. We provide the set of reports where you can kind of like see that information at the portfolio level, and then go to the single project level, and then do, as I mentioned, the comparison. Here I can select a group of projects simply and say that okay, let's say that's my 4 projects, and I can see that information. That's my project, that's budget, that's forecast, that baseline, that actual cost. I don't have it, and here I can see the distribution simply on the chart. I can show the variances here as well, if needed, and show that on pretty much any grid here. Here I can have quick filters for projects that I can see, okay, show me just projects that in progress. And that will simply show the projects that have percent complete anywhere between greater than 0 and less than 100%, and you will be able to just use kind of like a quick filter for your project. Portfolio cost details shows a similar information but in the time-phased format, and you can see the information again, like by default it's shown on the yearly basis, and shows okay, that's my forecast, that's my baseline, that's actual. Probably I'm not tracking, I'm not updating enough information here, and definitely my forecast is above my baseline, so I'm over the budget. So information I can click to monthly view, and I can see that on more granular format here, and navigate information here. Again, I can select just one project, several projects, multiple projects, and see all that information uh, on my grid. Portfolio category summary. It's again like we start with all the projects. Again, I can apply my filter here. But the difference with previous reports is that it shows the cost distribution by cost category. Uh, in this case, I can see, okay, that's how much I planned for admin and travel. That's my forecast. That's my baseline. That's actual cost. And again, like I can see all that information on the grid where I spent majority of my budget on which type of categories. Portfolio category detail, similar with categories, but the time phased. So you can add and I'll say that, okay, let's say that in the 2018 Q4, that's my budget for that's my forecast for vendor payments. That's my baseline. That's my actual. So I can see that information, and I can see where all the differences are happening between the forecast baseline and actual, and I can see that visually as well on the chart here. It clearly shows here the difference. Category cost details. It's a different dimension of the similar reports. It shows information by category and how much money we planned and we spent, or we planning to spend on by projects. In this case, I see my category. Here I see all my projects that have anything allocated to that category, so I can track the information. So it's all about the similar data, but from just a different angle, from the category standpoint, and not from and in this case I can see the details about the projects and where those money are spent. If you go to the project cost summary, in this case we start going to the project level report. So in this case we have one projects. That's my let's say that I'll pick just one project here. Again, I see budget, forecast, baseline cost, actual cost. I can see visual comparison on the bar chart and the pie chart by the cost categories. And as well, I have the burn up of the forecast, baseline, actual, and the budget. And visually, I can see if my forecast is above the baseline. Project cost details. Similar report, but in the time-phased format. So that's my project. I can see my cost, and I see uh, in the grid I can see all my costs. It is pretty much similar to what we have in Web UI here. Same time-phased component, just in form of a report that can be used for printing or presenting to your to executive. The last two reports, the portfolio cost analysis and portfolio cost analysis time phased, they allow you to do slightly different comparison. For example, let's say that I have project which is called the portfolio IT infrastructure. That's my project for of type of the portfolio in my project online, and it has a budget. In this case, that's my budget for the project. Here, if I go to my selection project and portfolio, I can pick the projects that are part of that portfolio. And in this case, I can see that's what I planned for by categories on the portfolio level. And that's aggregated information from projects in my portfolio. So, and I can see, okay, we planned the $214,000 for in this portfolio. We have that's our forecast, and right now our forecast from the projects that we have is $153,000. So I still have a money in the portfolio that probably can do uh, add another project or plan another project. So in this case, you can do that comparison. You can compare your budget for portfolio versus aggregate information from your projects. The last report, it's very similar. It just shows the same information, just in the time-phased format. So if you need to do the more granular analysis and go to the quarters or to the months, you can do that. We provide that functionality since we store that information at that level. Again, it's a standard Power BI. We provide you with report. You deploy to your Power BI tenant instance. You can edit that file if you need to add additional filters or modify reports. Absolutely, you can do that. And the FluentPro Financials expose the or data feed. So if you don't like our reports, you can consume data directly from data feed. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. So the benefits for business from implementing financial. Again, like we talked about that financial management as part of the maturity models, and when organizations implement PPM, they traditionally or they try to follow some guidelines outlined there. So definitely, the first one is that it's critical component of that strategy, and financial management provides a better project control and as well as the accountability for project managers. It means that you have financial component as part of your project management process. There are budgets, and project managers need to make sure that the project are within those budgets, and that's a way to control that as well. That leads to increased accuracy of planning and tracking. Management has and PMO has better control and understanding. Are we within budgetary constraints, under budget, over budget? It means that it provides that visibility, and reporting helps with that. You can understand where you are, and you can plan better for next year or adjust your plans, maybe kill projects or start new projects, depending on the information that you have. As mentioned, it's increasing that all those components by better planning, better tracking, better control, better accountability. It's increasing the effectiveness of organization, and that leads as one of the side effects in the increase of maturity level of organization. It means that organization has more control over project execution process. And for business, for benefit for business as well, that since we have the Power BI interface, which is a standard right now, executives no longer need to go anywhere to ask for, okay, what is the budget for project? Do we have any money left on the portfolio? It means that that data can be embedded to executive, can become part of the executive dashboard, that you can bring the data from project online and embed it into some dashboards that you have for executive, and it's, I would say that it's real time. It provides that additional dimension that management can use to make a decision. So it is critical, and we provide that information for management. Regarding security, FluentPro Financials cloud-based application. We host all our application in Microsoft Azure. We have option to deploying it to the US, European Union, Canadian data centers. So if you need to you have your data in specific location, we support that. Architecturally, we provide the complete data protection and data segregation. So every customer data is separated. We using separate databases. We support for large customers and customers with specific security requirements. We support dedicated instances, and we provide the on let's call the customer hosted instance as well, where we can deploy FluentPro Financials to your infrastructure. We are GDPR compliant. We are Privacy Shield certified for European Union and US agreement. As mentioned, we support data. It's supporting the OS2 for authentication, so the data is secured as well. Regarding the pricing, we have two models for, I would say that for enterprises and for small organization. For small organization, we offer the option of monthly subscription, starting the 50 users or 50 projects or 100 projects. FluentPro Financials billing is based on a number of projects that is managed. So you can pay just $99 per month using your credit card and just start using the financials, manage anywhere up to 50 projects. If you're 100%, if you have 100 projects, it's $149 per month. For larger organization, we have a plan for $4,000 a year. It's a 4,000 projects, and enterprise option, like for very large organization, is over 1,000 projects. Annual subscription is $6,000. You can buy it online on our website, or you can talk to our sales. For enterprise subscription, business subscription, we always suggest to consult on pricing to our sales organization on the website. Dedicated and customer hosted options available, but they're subject to you need to talk to sales to get the quote. It's very case by case specific. In general, as FluentPro, we have a variety of products for Microsoft Project Online. The governance, administration, suite, migration, financials. We have PowerBI packs for planner, for Microsoft Project Online in general. We have integration platforms and data reporting solutions. So please feel free to explore our website or request additional demos. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. Please let us know if you have any questions, or if you would like to try the FluentPro Financials. You can install app and try it. We have a trial period, and you can play with it. Otherwise, let us know, and we will be more than happy to organize a more detailed demo if you have any questions. Thank you, and have a great day.